The First World War. History and facts. The First World War, also known as the Great War, was one of the deadliest conflicts in history, involving many of the world's great powers and reshaping political boundaries, societies, and economies. It lasted from 1914 to 1918, and its causes, course, and consequences are complex and far-reaching. Here's a detailed account of the First World War. The origins of the First World War. The origins of the First World War lie in a mix of nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and a complex system of alliances between countries. Nationalism. The 19th century saw the rise of nationalism across Europe, with countries like Germany and Italy seeking unification and power. Ethnic groups in multi-ethnic empires, such as the Austro-Hungarian Empire, were also pushing for independence. Imperialism. European powers had been competing for global dominance through colonization and empire building, creating tensions, particularly between Britain, France, and Germany. Militarism. Countries were building up their military forces and engaging in an arms race, especially Germany and Britain. Military leaders increasingly had influence over national policies. Alliances. Two major alliance systems divided Europe: the Triple Entente, France, Russia, and Britain, and the Triple Alliance, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These alliances meant that if one country was attacked, others were obliged to join the war, escalating the conflict beyond local disputes. The immediate cause. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The immediate trigger of the First World War was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary on June 28, 1914, in Sarajevo, Bosnia, by a Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. This event set off a chain reaction among the major European powers. 1. Austria-Hungary, with the backing of Germany, issued an ultimatum to Serbia. 2. Serbia, supported by Russia, rejected parts of the ultimatum. 3. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. This localized conflict rapidly spiraled into a broader war due to the system of alliances. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia, Germany declared war on Russia, and soon after, Germany declared war on France. When Germany invaded Belgium to reach France, Britain declared war on Germany, and the conflict engulfed most of Europe. The war's major fronts and combatants. The First World War was fought primarily on two major fronts. Western Front. This front stretched across France and Belgium, where German forces faced off against French, British, and later American troops. It was defined by trench warfare, with both sides dug into vast systems of trenches that spanned hundreds of miles. Eastern Front. This front saw fighting between Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia. Unlike the Western Front, the Eastern Front was much more fluid, with large-scale movements of armies and territorial gains and losses. Other theaters of war included the Italian Front, the Balkan Front, the Middle Eastern Front, and naval battles across the Atlantic and Mediterranean. Key combatants. 1. Allied powers. France, Britain, Russia, Italy, joined in 1915, and later the United States, joined in 1917. 2. Central powers. Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. Trench warfare and technology. One of the most defining features of World War I was trench warfare, especially on the Western Front. Soldiers dug deep trenches for protection, and life in these trenches was brutal. They were often muddy, waterlogged, and filled with rats. Soldiers endured constant artillery barrages, sniper fire, and poison gas attacks. New military technologies also made the war particularly deadly. Machine guns, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute, they made charging enemy positions almost suicidal. Artillery. Large-scale artillery barrages caused massive casualties and destruction, reshaping battlefields and making movement difficult. Poison gas. Introduced by the Germans in 1915, poison gas, such as chlorine and mustard gas, caused horrific injuries, burning lungs and skin. Tanks. Tanks were first introduced by the British in 1916. They were slow and unreliable at first, but they represented a new era of mechanized warfare. Airplanes. Airplanes were used for reconnaissance, bombing, and dogfighting. Though primitive compared to modern aircraft, their use in war was revolutionary. Key battles and turning points. Several battles defined the course of the war. Battle of the Marne, 1914. Early in the war, the German advance into France was stopped at the Marne River, leading to a stalemate and the start of trench warfare. Battle of Verdun, 1916, one of the longest and costliest battles of the war, fought between France and Germany. It lasted for most of 1916, with around 700,000 casualties. Battle of the Somme, 1916, a major offensive launched by the British and French. This battle is remembered for its horrific casualties, especially on the first day, when the British suffered 57,000 casualties. Battle of Jutland, 1916, the largest naval battle of the war, fought between the British Royal Navy and the German Navy. While it ended indecisively, it reinforced British control of the seas. U.S. entry into the war, 1917, the U.S. initially remained neutral, but unrestricted submarine warfare by Germany, as well as the Zimmermann Telegram, in which Germany proposed a military alliance with Mexico against the U.S., led to the U.S. declaring war on Germany in April 1917. The arrival of fresh American troops boosted the Allies. Russian Revolution, 1917, the war exacerbated internal tensions in Russia, leading to the Russian Revolution in 1917. The Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power and withdrew Russia from the war in 1918, signing the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany. The end of the war. By 1918, both sides were exhausted. The Allied powers, with fresh American troops and superior resources, launched a series of offensives known as the 100 Days Offensive. The German army was pushed back, and Germany's allies, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, began to collapse. On November 11, 1918, Germany signed an armistice, ending the fighting. This date is now commemorated as Armistice Day or Veterans Day in many countries. The Treaty of Versailles, 1919, the official peace settlement was the Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919. The treaty placed the blame for the war squarely on Germany and imposed harsh penalties, including 1. Significant territorial losses. 2. Severe military restrictions. 3. Large reparations payments. The treaty caused resentment in Germany and is often seen as one of the factors that led to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the outbreak of World War II. Key facts and consequences of the First World War casualties. The First World War resulted in over 16 million deaths, both military personnel and civilians, and 21 million wounded. Global impact. The war reshaped the world map. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, Ottoman Empire, and Russian Empire collapsed. New countries like Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and Poland were created. Economic consequences. The war devastated European economies and led to economic problems that contributed to the Great Depression of the 1930s. Social and cultural changes. The war led to significant social changes, including the rise of women in the workforce, technological advancements, and a shift in public attitudes toward authority, with many disillusioned by the war. League of Nations. The League of Nations was created after the war to promote peace and cooperation between nations. While it was an early attempt at a global peacekeeping organization, it ultimately failed to prevent the outbreak of World War II. Conclusion. The legacy of the First World War. The First World War was a watershed moment in world history. It not only redrew the political map of Europe, but also laid the groundwork for many of the conflicts and events of the 20th century, including the Second World War. Its impact on military strategy, international relations, and global economics continues to be studied today, making it one of the most significant events in modern history.